Through survival in Somerset West. We recently posted a video of one of our students defending himself against 3 armed attackers, and I've had a lot of questions about the videos and the scenario and what happened, and I've decided to make this video just to shed a little bit of light on this, give you some clarity, and also well, the reason why we posted the video originally was because we want to put the information out there. We want people to be aware of the modus operandi of these people, and then also after I've explained the entire situation to you, you're going to understand. I also want to explain to you how absolutely confident and brazen these people are, and then of course also wanted to show you what a well-trained or not a well-trained but a trained civilian can achieve under really difficult circumstances. And of course, give some respect to the KALAH combat system, because without that, there was no ways that he was going to be able to deal with that circumstances. Now, this specific person has been, previously had been in an armed robbery at his house, 5 people with firearms. So this is not the first time he's been attacked, but that was quite a long time ago, and that was before he received training from us. So maybe let me start by disclosing something. So the video that I posted was the second attack. It wasn't the first time he was attacked by those 3 people. Because of the ongoing investigation into this crime, I unfortunately cannot share the first video with you, but I might give you post a few stills and stuff like that, just so you can see more or less what happened there. But I don't want to interfere with the legal process, and that's also why I waited about 6 months before I posted any of these videos. So this attack actually took place about 6 months ago. That was winter time here with us, and so I want you to know that he was basically attacked once by these people, and they came back, and the video that you watched was the second time that he was attacked. So maybe let me just give you a broad outline, and then we can discuss it in detail. So this gentleman came home on a rainy and windy day. Now in Cape Town in South Africa, we know that's prime time for criminals. So you know, when all you want to do is be warm and comfortable inside your house, those guys are prowling outside in the dark and in the rain. Why? Because your attention distracted, noise isn't so clearly defined. So we find that those guys are really active during those times. So I once had somebody say to me, it's raining, so they're all inside, they're scared of the rain, scared of getting wet. Not true. So he was on his way home. He works quite close to home, so he was walking home. He was carrying quite a bit of very expensive electronic equipment, and having trained with us, and having been through similar experience, he's obviously very cautious. He got to the back gate of his garden, could see all clear, nobody was in sight, and the visibility was good in both directions, nobody to be seen. As he unlocked the gate, 3 guys with firearms push him down to the ground. So they literally, as he unlocked the gate, they come up behind him, they appear from nowhere, and they push him down to the ground. Now, this person was carrying a firearm at that stage, with which he has received a small amount of training, but he immediately realized that this is a defensive situation. There's no time or opportunity to respond. 3 guys with firearms pointed at his head, and that's exactly what happened. He was lying down on the ground, submitting as he's been taught, and starting to communicate with the attackers. Now that's all part of the training that he received from us, and he did it brilliantly. I'm so proud of this man. One must understand, you're completely caught off guard, and suddenly you're in a life-threatening situation with 3 guys standing over you, pointing firearms, pushing them right up against your head, and saying to you that they're going to kill you if you do anything. So what he did is he started to communicate with them. You can see it very clearly in the video, and they immediately start stripping him of all the gear that he's carrying, his backpack with his laptop, etc., etc., some camera equipment and stuff that he had with him. What they didn't know is that he activated the silent alarm, a panic button. The minute that they attacked him, he had his keys in his hand, and he activated that. The phone then rang. Now, under normal circumstances, a person who doesn't have any proper training might find that situation very difficult, but a very big part of our training is to actually communicate with the attacker, and he did so brilliantly. He indicated that he needs to answer the phone as the security company. They allowed him to do that. They prompted him to give the all clear, which they think he did, but he had actually passed on a panic signal to the operator on the other side, and then he hung up because they instructed him to do so. Obviously, armed response has already been activated in the background, and the guys were on their way. But the attackers didn't know that at that point. They finished frisking him. Strangely enough, they didn't take his phone. He put it down on his chest, and there was a split second where their attention was distracted, and where they were just double checking that they've got everything, and he was able to draw his firearm. Now, absolutely fantastic. Again, I'm so impressed. As he went down to the ground, he turned and he made sure that he was lying on his right hip and protecting his firearm, and they didn't find that in the initial search. So as he got that opportunity, he drew his firearm, and as he started to point it, they realized that he was armed, and being only a few meters away from the gate, they dashed through the gate and off they went. He decided not to shoot at them, and they were gone. So what happened after that, I cannot even start to imagine or explain to you just how impressed I am with this individual. Small amount of our training. Yes, our training is very intensive, but what he did after that was absolutely brilliant, and I don't know how many other people would have been able to do it as well as he did. Didn't panic, didn't run away, didn't do anything like that, but his training kicked in, and he strictly adhered to his tactical and firearm discipline, and he basically moved back to cover while covering his front, realized that they were gone, and he started moving forwards, cleared the area, cleared the corners on the gate and on the walls, and he locked the gate and retreated back to his house. So absolutely fantastic, and a fantastic testimony for good training, and not a gung-ho gun attitude, and all respect to him for that. And then what happened is he went inside, he saved his firearm, holstered it, and started to communicate with the armed response company and family. And as he was standing there, he noticed that the back gate was slightly ajar, and as one can understand, he's shocked, or he's in shock, he's stressed, a whole bunch of stuff going on at the same time. So he started to doubt himself, and started to doubt that he had actually locked the back gate. What he didn't know was the fact that within 4 minutes these guys had come back. So they'd stashed the stuff that they've taken from him, and I mean, they got a few 100,000 rands worth of equipment, so really they could go. They had really achieved their purpose, and nobody was injured, and they knew that he was armed, and they knew that armed response was on their way. But still, they came back. It took them a few seconds to break open the gate, and they slipped under some brush, or under a tree into some brush, into the shadows in his backyard. And that's the video that I posted and that you saw. So what happens, and a lot of people have been asking me, we can't see and we don't understand everything happening there. I did post the description, but I'll explain it a little bit further. So what happened then was that he exited his house to go and double check the gate. And yes, maybe you'll say, but he was unwise to do so. Excuse me. Very easy to criticize and make comments if you're not in the moment. So in that moment, he believed that was the right thing to do. Some other people might say, yes, you should have waited for armed response, me included probably. but that's what he did in the heat of the moment, and we can't blame him for that. He was concerned about his safety and his family's safety, and that the gate standing ajar from which he had been attacked was a problem for him. He wanted to uphold his perimeter, and he went outside to close the gate. What did probably save his life was the fact that he didn't come out guns blazing and decided to leave his firearm holstered, which is something that we feel strongly about. Really just draw your firearm when it's absolutely necessary. Don't give the fact away that you are armed, etc., etc. But how that came into play here, I'm not sure. The main thing is that he had these guys a couple of meters away from him in the dark, pointing firearms at him. So if he came out the back door with his firearm in his hand, they probably would have shot him. In this case, that he didn't. He walks outside just to double check that the gate is locked. And as he steps out the back door, and that's what you see in the video, you see this one guy come flying at him with that pistol pointing straight at his head, and the other two guys right behind. So, and then wonderful example of good self-defense doctrine and self-defense discipline and training. He immediately submits, shows that he's not a threat to them. As the person gets close enough, he decides to use a very fast gun disarm, something that we do teach, but we normally prefer good retention. But in this case, you've got multiple attackers. There was no time for a prolonged fight with one person, so he does a very fast gun disarm, and he takes the firearm from the person. You see him pushing the guy to the ground, making space for himself, part of his training, so that he can activate the firearm. As he gets the pistol into his hand, he realizes that it's not a real gun. It's a plastic pistol, it's very light, plasticky, and he discards it immediately. At that moment, the other two guys are right upon them, and they immediately start attacking him by hitting at him with their hands, especially the ones containing the firearm, so pistol whipping him, if you want to call it that, and attacking him. He starts to defend himself against the blows, and realizes that the one guy is trying to get behind him to either choke him or subdue him or disarm him. He backs up against the wall while he's busy fighting these guys so that they can't get behind him. So applying good self-defense strategy. And in the meantime, the guy that he pushed to the ground gets up, draws a knife and comes at him, and in the video you'll see him hacking at him with the knife. He's busy fighting all three of these guys, trying to disarm them, and in that process a shot goes off and one of the guys gets shot through the leg, and immediately they disengage and they start to flee for the back gate, obviously thinking that he had managed to draw his own firearm. You then suddenly see the three of them rushing towards the back gate. You see the one guy limping. Some of them had been struck and kicked and stuff like that, and then they leave. So I hope that shines a little bit more light on this. I think the takeaway from this is just how brazen these guys are, and to look at this, the things that's involved here. Obviously there had been reconnaissance because they knew where to hit him, when to hit him, and the fact that he was going to be carrying valuable goods. The way in which they ambushed him, the overwhelming power that they use. I mean, 3 armed people attacking you from behind is something that's hard for anybody to deal with, even if you're a well-trained soldier or law enforcement. It is a terrible situation to be in. So they use that overwhelming force, that first wave as we call it, and they overpower him completely. He does the right thing. There's some value in this. Learn good submission, being able to communicate with the attacker. If he had tried to go for his pistol right there and then, he'd be dead. He submitted and he waited for his opportunity. Once the opportunity came, he didn't hesitate, he went straight for it, even though he was in a very difficult situation. The discipline to handle the circumstances, not to go gung-ho and empty magazines in all directions, fantastic. Good 200% gun safety at all times. In the video you can see when it's not necessary to fire a finger out of the trigger guard. Great tactics, perfect tactical movement. I discussed this with Idan as well. we are so proud of him, and it just shows what training does. And then once he got into the second fight, you see him applying KALAH properly, moving forwards, and yeah, and then once you start fighting for your life, there's no rules and nothing nothing that we can say about that. The man won the fight, saved his own life and possibly the life of his family, and prevented them from taking his firearm. In other words, also prevented that firearm from being used in other crimes. We've got to pay attention to the fact that they came back, and that really shocked me when I heard that the first time. I mean, obviously we deal with a lot of this, and I get into contact with people every day that's been attacked in South Africa, but and we know what a disregard there is for law enforcement, and we know how brazen and sometimes desperate these guys are. But what we see here is even though they knew law enforcement was on its way, even though they knew that he was armed, they came back and laid in ambush. So yeah, that's very concerning. Then the last thing I want to say about this is just the effectiveness of good, realistic training, of choosing a good self-defense system like the KALAH combat system. I have absolute respect for this gentleman, and you know, he's not a gung-ho person. He's a gentle, kind person. He's not trying to be a superhero or anything like that. He just wants to protect himself and his family, and I think the results are there. And he really walked away from there with minor injuries. There was small injuries to some of his joints and stuff like that during this fight, but other than that, he's a-okay, and all he can say could say to me, just besides thank you, obviously, is just how the training made everything so much better. I don't want to say easier, because it's never easy, but it made it better. And because of the environment that he trains in, he's not unfamiliar with this very violent, aggressive situation, and he was able to deal with that. Okay, so I hope that shines some light on this. This video is already very long, but I just wanted to give you some clarity on that. So yeah, he was attacked twice. You watched the second video, and he succeeded both times. So yeah, I'd love to see you come and train with us. Thank you.